In early 2025, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and the Wayfarer parties were filing federal complaints, superseding amended complaints, motions, exhibit lists, and more. To help me digest all that information, I made a spreadsheet and a timeline. One of the first things that stuck out to me was that Blake Lively was talking about losing weight at virtually the same time she was welcoming her fourth child into the world. Even though I've never seen anything in writing indicating the exact weight or size Blake Lively needed to be in order to play Lily, text messages between Lively and Justin Baldoni make it sound as though she had a very clear idea in her mind of what she was supposed to look like. Those text messages give the impression that she believed, really seemed to believe, that by achieving that image, a specific type of body within 100 or so days of giving birth to her fourth child would serve as proof that she had a strong work ethic, that she could and would rise to any occasion. At the same time that she was working to achieve that body, Blake Lively was caring for a newborn, raising 3 school-age kids, running 2 businesses, launching a third, and, even though no one asked her to, rewriting critical scenes for the It Ends With Us script. I don't know about you, but I think that sounds like a living nightmare. Long before the role of Lily Bloom came along, Blake Lively was already part of an elite group of famous women who were known for bouncing back quickly after giving birth. Looking effortlessly perfect was a central element of her brand. In early 2023, when Blake Lively walked onto the set of It Ends With Us, she hadn't yet achieved her ideal body, and it appears that the fallout from her missing that one personal goal include a ballooning of the film's wardrobe budget, removing an important scene from the movie, and somehow a lawsuit. Blake Lively's accusations that she felt fat-shamed ended up in a federal lawsuit. This is FracturePoint, and I'm your host, Annie. Let's get into it. I don't know the exact date of birth for Lively's fourth child, but on February 12th, 2023, Lively posted a photo to her Instagram page in which she was clearly no longer pregnant. Best guess, Lively and Reynolds' son was born in early February or possibly even the end of January. That means that on February 9th, when Lively sent a text to Justin letting him know she was 20 pounds away from her goal, it was very close to the time when she would have been welcoming her fourth child into the world. Baldoni responded to her text with a dislike. A little over a week later, Lively sent Baldoni a text saying, "Kicking ass, but it's still a ton of work with not a ton of time." She asked if they could move body scenes to the end of the schedule. Baldoni responded by saying, "There's 1 billion moving parts right now, so much of it comes down to locations and the other cast availability." He then says, "I want you to know you will look amazing. Anything you were insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need." The next day, Lively sent a text thanking Baldoni for a voice memo before writing, "We both understand the assignment as actors in the roles, but also as producers and also as marketers. We understand artistically, yes, but we get what we need to do in all aspects for this movie commercially. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. It's a part of the job that we both excitedly signed up for. I don't shy away from it because it's not problematic. It's the assignment. Like when someone is about to start an athletic event, it's their job to be in top shape. My husband and I both look at certain roles as athletic events, and this is one of them. It's not always a part of the job, but on this one it is, and that's great. As much as I'd love to not think about it, that would be irresponsible and also impossible because it's unrealistic to not acknowledge what I need to do. This is my job here, and I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. I look for solutions to achieve my high goals instead of lowering my goals. We all win when we're each firing at our highest capabilities, and you and I both are and will continue to. I just need as much time as possible because I just had my fourth baby. I understand that you'll never personally know all the nuances of the challenges unless you lived this physical moment in time I'm in with this physical road ahead. So having your understanding and support to help me pull this off is critical and very, very appreciated, not just in my experience now, but also healing from experiences past. So thank you. There are probably a lot of things that could be said about this text message. I've read it over and over again, and my first reaction is always sadness. The woman who wrote that text message does not strike me as someone who is doing well. I can only imagine how life after having a baby might have influenced the tone of the text. For most women, that period of time is often marked by sleep deprivation, changing hormone levels, and just trying to find clothes that fit. The text is pretty long, but in all of those words, there doesn't seem to be any space to just be human. What if she doesn't achieve her ideal body? Does it mean she lowered her goals? Does it mean she doesn't have an extreme work ethic? Or could it just mean that now she's in her 30s and her body is responding differently to the same workout routine and diet plan that worked before? It's hard not to notice that the only mention of Ryan Reynolds was to say that he agreed with her, not that he tells her she's the most beautiful after bringing their child into the world. She doesn't say that he reminded her that the Wayfarer team could bring in a body double or use creative camera placement. To be fair, he very well might have said all of those things or even more wonderful things to his wife, but this is still where her perspective was immediately after her son was born. I don't know if there was anyone in Blake Lively's life at the time besides Justin Baldoni trying to make sure she understood that her body wasn't the reason she was hired, that it wasn't the only thing she had to offer. I do know that in that text message, Lively kept saying similar things in different ways. We both understand the assignment. It's not always a part of the job, but on this one it is, and that's great. And I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. We all win when we're firing at our highest capabilities. The repetition reminds me of something people do when meditating or repeating positive affirmations. It reads not like she's trying to convince Justin Baldoni of anything, but more like she's trying to reassure herself. Honestly, I just want to wrap my arms around the Blake Lively of February 2023 and say to her, stop, this is too much. Be kind to yourself. I know with absolute confidence that if I received a text message like this from one of my best friends, I would be on her doorstep immediately, likely with ice cream and lots of Kleenex. I think it's important to note that this wasn't the first time Blake Lively compared getting in shape for a role to training for an athletic event.
It was the most grueling environment I've ever been in because this movie was not only an emotional acting challenge, but it was a physical challenge. It was an athletic event, so I had to train like an athlete in order to just be able to keep up every day, and then on top of that, had to perform and act and do a very emotional story. So it was tough.
In December 2014, Lively gave birth to her first child with husband Ryan Reynolds. 8 months later, she was in a bikini filming The Shallows. While Lively was promoting the movie in 2016, her amazing post-baby body was getting so much press that People magazine even interviewed Lively's trainer, Don Saladino, specifically about how she got back in shape for The Shallows. According to the interview, by the time Lively found out she had the part, she only had 2 months to prep for the beachside shoot. So she worked out with him 5 or even 6 times a week and also worked with one of his nutritionists to come up with an eating plan.
Worked out with an amazing trainer, Don Saladino. He kicked my butt. You know, it was also 8 months after having a baby.
Right.
So my body was already completely different than what it normally was, not just aesthetically, but also, you know, your muscles are different, your body, everything is just shifted and changed. But I had to, for sure, work out for vanity's sake. But to keep up with the physicality of this role, it was like training for a marathon, but a marathon is one day. This was 6 weeks straight, 6-day weeks, no lunch breaks, 13-hour days, 4-foot waves at all times. So by the time I was done with the movie, as much as I trained, being in the water that long, I had muscles that I had never had before. I had a level of strength. I can actually see it in the movie. I see myself swimming in the water, and I know that we shot that early, and then I see myself swimming later, and I'm just like paddling through it like a professional swimmer, and I was like, wow, that was really cool.
8 months after giving birth.
8 months, yeah.
That's crazy.
It was really crazy.
Was there any...
But it was also nice to have that motivation, you know, because I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have gotten in that kind of shape, and I always would have felt a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I can ever do that. My body's changed, and it is what it is. But to know that I have the ability, I just need the willpower.
Over and over again, Lively's body was the topic of conversation during her press tour for The Shallows. There's actually a name for this. It's called snapback culture. The expectation that a woman's body needs to snap back into place as soon as possible after giving birth. To her credit, Lively did try to adjust the conversation by pointing out that women should remember their bodies just did the most incredible miracle life had to offer. Some of those interviews may have been awkward for her because while everyone seemed really interested in the body Lively had while filming The Shallows, she was actually pregnant with her second baby during the movie's press tour. There was one article about Lively that came out in the summer of 2016 from MTV that took a different perspective. It was called The Unbearable Blakeness of Lively. Honestly, the article is pretty brutal. Written by Tao Bugby, this is how it opens. In life, there are some absolute facts that, because we know them to be true, bring us deep comfort. The day is 24 hours long. Water freezes into ice when cooled, 1 + 1 = 2, and Blake Lively will be insanely, incredibly, wildly famous forever. After taking the reader through Lively's career as an actress and as the spokesperson for Chanel and L'Oreal, Bugby writes, in fairness to Blake Lively, there is more to admire about her than just her exceptional hair. Lively also has good teeth, very straight, and very white. And then the article closes with, more than anything, there's a particular freedom from anxiety that comes with looking at Blake Lively, as if her pleasant blankness could be contagious. Blake Lively is the physical embodiment of all things blonde, sun-kissed, American, white, and happy. She's not true neutral so much as she's an advertiser's dream of neutral. She'll vote for Obama, then throw a destination wedding on a Carolinian plantation. Her favorite condiment is mayonnaise, unless icing counts as a condiment. She's Jennifer Aniston without the sarcasm, Cameron Diaz without the goofiness, Gwyneth Paltrow without the snobbiness, Reese Witherspoon without the ambition. Congratulations, Hollywood, you've done it. The search is over. You've found the perfect woman. All blonde and no edges. So smooth, it's like she's not even there. I have no idea whether or not Blake Lively read or even heard about this article, but while others were praising her body, MTV presented her as pleasantly blank, uncomplicated, but not in a good way. What's missing from the press that summer is the obvious third option for a topic of conversation. Maybe her role in The Shallows wasn't the kind that would garner serious awards, but she was still an actress. By 2016, Blake Lively had been in The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, The Age of Adeline, The Town, and Lively even starred in a movie directed by iconic filmmaker Oliver Stone called Savages. The only narrative about her that really seemed to stick was the one about her body.
I just wanted to do it slow and steady and, and so I did. It took me 14 months, but I felt
did
proud,
look
and I feel like it's
smoking
important
hot.
for moms to know that, because like it's also your thing that you like want to like put on Spanx and be like, look how skinny I look after a baby, but like really it doesn't matter how many corsets you put on. I was still
How many
a
did you
full
wear?
61 pounds overweight. Over my weight, which is fine, but it's also kids change so much. So if they change your body and that's not a priority to get back in shape, that's awesome too. It doesn't have to be a priority, but it was for me.
After having her second baby, Blake Lively's ability to bounce back was once again making its way through the headlines, even though she wasn't even promoting a movie at the time. Filming for the rhythm section was on hold because she'd broken her hand, and A Simple Favor was in post-production. So the big news in 2018 related to Blake Lively was her 61-pound weight loss. Blake Lively isn't the only actress who's had stories like this written about her. Hilaria Baldwin, Alec Baldwin's wife, famously took to Instagram just 12 days after giving birth to show off her flat belly. Supermodels like Heidi Klum and Chrissy Teigen are also known for having amazing bodies after childbirth. Fame and thinness often go together.
Everything became about what I looked like. Everything was hinged on it, and I felt tremendous responsibility when I was 12 years old and I was put up on a catwalk. My modeling agents had told me to go on a diet, so I didn't eat for 10 days before then, and then I get up on this catwalk and I'm a little kid and I'm posing and trying to be sexy and strutting around, and all the other models are making fun of my bushy eyebrows. And when I got in the car after that event and just opened up a bag of my favorite candy and just put my whole head in it, you know, and I think, shit, what have I done? I've just undid, 2 weeks worth of dieting. I'm 12 years old. So then I vomit. Erase the feelings with food, erase the food by vomiting, but you're still left with the shame, That's the thing. It makes me emotional just thinking about a day. It's just horrible.
Portia de Rossi went on to be featured in multiple highly successful television series. She was a regular on Ally McBeal, Better Off Ted, and Arrested Development. In her memoir, Unbearable Lightness, A Story of Loss and Gain, de Rossi shared that at one point she only consumed 300 calories a day. In interviews, she described starving herself before an acting gig and then binging on food as soon as it was over. The director of Pretty Woman, Gary Marshall, wrote a memoir about making movies. In the book, he shared a story about Julia Roberts passing out while on set. He asked her what she'd eaten, and she said she'd had half an avocado the day before. He jokingly told her she should have eaten the entire thing. And it's been widely reported that in the early days of Hollywood studios, actresses were often put on odd, highly restrictive diets. Some were even given amphetamines to maintain the body the studios wanted them to have. It's easy to say that what all of these women went through was awful. For some reason, it's not always easy to say that about Blake Lively. Blake Lively doesn't exist in a vacuum. More than once, she's mentioned that it was her high school that the TV show Glee was based on. Maybe she grew up in an environment where everyone was waiting to be discovered and was therefore living by Hollywood's standards long before they were in the spotlight. I know a lot of people say that a person should feel content with their own body, but as a society, we don't make it easy. Jessica Simpson, Hilary Duff, Britney Spears, Kelly Clarkson, and even Beyonce were either pressured or openly criticized because they didn't snap back quickly enough after having a baby. And what is quickly enough? In a normal world, I would not catalog how long it took a woman to lose her baby weight. But since nothing about this story is normal, here we go. In October of 2019, Lively and Reynolds welcomed their third child. A few months later, Lively was on the red carpet for the premiere of her movie, The Rhythm Section. She shared with reporters that she was wearing a corset that night, presumably because she was still carrying around some baby weight. A few days earlier, she posted on Instagram explaining that while she had been searching for a photo of herself and Sterling K. Brown, one of her co-stars from the rhythm section, she got distracted by a really good photo of her abs. She captioned the post, "Dear abs, I miss you." So Lively filmed The Shallows 8 months after her first baby was born. She spoke publicly about needing 14 months to lose all of the baby weight after the birth of her second child. And in January of 2020, 3 months after having baby number 3, she was still not where she wanted to be physically. For the rest of 2020, she was pretty low-key like everyone else because of COVID. I don't completely understand why Lively thought she'd feel comfortable having a baby in late January, early February, and then being on a film set potentially shooting love scenes 3 months later. What I do know from reading the comments on my videos and others is that a lot of people will not feel badly for Blake. But I also know what it's like to bite off more than I can chew and to then feel extremely overwhelmed. But even with that framing, no matter how many times I replay these events in my mind, I simply cannot grasp how the things that happened next happened at all. One of the first implications of the pressure Blake Lively was projecting about her body while still in pre-production for It Ends With Us can be seen in what happened with the film's wardrobe. This is an email written by the line producer for It Ends With Us, dated April 25th, 2023. Wardrobe's budget for spending is $185,000. Normally, wardrobe overspends, then does tons of returns and ends up in budget. Our wardrobe team told me they'd spend about $500,000, but then land back at $185,000 once returns are done. To date, they've already spent $615,000, and they need their cachet cards all replenished because they've only shopped for Justin and Blake. They had to reshop everything for Blake after creative changes, but it's a lot of money. I trust them, of course, but want to keep you all posted, as this is way more than I've ever seen wardrobe go over budget with the initial spend. At this point, we have to replenish their cards because they have not shopped for the other characters. Just keeping you posted. And this is from the amended complaint filed against Blake Lively by Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties. Lively began to insist on creative control over her character's wardrobe. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over their character's general look, they generally do not receive full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director or producers. What may seem like an innocuous request can, in fact, have monumental impact on a film production. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disposing of the weeks of effort and creativity spent by the wardrobe team on shopping and carefully crafting her wardrobe, Lively sent hundreds of images to the film's costume designer, including in the late hours of the evening, depicting the style of wardrobe she wanted for her character. The costume designer had to reshop Lively's wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources, while also preparing wardrobes for the rest of the cast. At one point, Lively insisted that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes despite being a fledgling small business owner. This forced Baldoni to rethink the entire script that had been in the works for well over a year and was approved by both Sony and Wayfarer, a script that Wayfarer had commissioned multiple drafts of and incorporated countless notes, including input from the book's author, Colleen Hoover. The wardrobe budget ballooned. Lively often refused to participate in wardrobe fittings at the production office, which was a mere 15 minutes from Lively's home. Instead, she insisted that the costume department pack up wardrobe and deliver it to her personal residence. Loading the wardrobe department on trucks and delivering the contents to Lively's home in the middle of congested Manhattan for fittings cost time and money, always in short supply on any major film. Requests of this nature are typically made during contract negotiations. Since Lively made no such requests at the time, this added expense was not included in the budget. Lively, who had a greater obligation to the studios as an executive producer, paid no heed to budget constraints, let alone to the months of planning that had already been completed. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of their working relationship and to avoid further delays caused by wardrobe conflicts, Baldoni and the studio reluctantly ceded full control to Lively over the wardrobe. This concession quickly proved regrettable. There is not a lot of information in Lively's complaints about how her wardrobe in the movie came to be, but she did discuss it while she was promoting the film.
Early set photos of Lively's movie wardrobe sending fans into a frenzy.
People have so much to say about her style.
I mean, I love Lily's style. I think when you see the film, her style makes sense because she's a woman of multitudes. It's storytelling. To me, fashion and costume design is storytelling.
Can I tell you my favorite?
Yes, please.
Like, take my breath away favorite? Those boots.
Those are my boots.
Those boots are so good.
Those are my real life boots. A lot of it's my real life clothes or my husband's clothes or my girlfriend Gigi's clothes. I was borrowing some.
Wait, that's kind of amazing. So you have something of Gigi's in the movie.
Yeah, it's like a wedding, like something old, something borrowed, something blue, something new.
Wait, which
except
one?
it's just,
Now I want to think of the scene.
Oh, I'm wearing her stuff all over it.
Oh, really?
And tons of like Bodhi, which is with the suit now that I'm wearing is Bodhi. It was meant for my husband, but I borrowed
that's
it.
his suit?
It was meant for him to wear, but it's so pretty. Look at it. You guys are not getting it in the shot.
So for It Ends With Us, I really like the way my husband dresses, and I also really love the way Gigi Hadid dresses, which is, you know, an odd mashup, I'm sure. I think that the wardrobe was a really critical part of that storytelling, and I'm really, really proud of it. But I'm wearing like a ton of like Bodhi and vintage, and it's some of my favorite wardrobe I've ever worn. It's just like so expressive and eclectic and really gives you such a sense of the character.
Lively's accusations of how Justin Baldoni tried to manage her weight and appearance can be found in her lawsuit. She claims he went out of his way to message criticisms of her age and weight, neither of which she could change during filming. On the second day of filming, for example, Mr. Baldoni made the rest of the cast and crew wait for hours while he cried in Miss Lively's dressing room, claiming social media commentators were saying that Miss Lively looked old and unattractive based on paparazzi photos from the set. Miss Lively tried to reassure him that she should look authentic in the scenes depicted in the photos, which were just after her character had been abused by her fictional husband, rather than hot. Mr. Baldoni, however, appeared focused on Miss Lively's sexual appeal above all else. His lengthy outburst caused a delay in shooting, forcing an emotional scene to be shot haphazardly. Someone posted a photo of Blake Lively on set with the caption, "Thoughts on first look of Blake as Lily." The first comment is, "I never pictured her this homely." The second comment said, "They made Blake Lively look older than she actually is, in my opinion, and she's supposed to be playing younger. She looks like Mary Poppins mixed with a homeless lady, and she doesn't seem like she'll dazzle like Book Lily basically did." And the next one reads, "Also, what the fuck is this outfit? I just can't. It would be hideous in any movie." Below the photo and comments is the following text. May 16th, 2023. Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments and his desire to have more control of wardrobe decisions going forward. Before this meeting, Baldoni texted Heath saying he was terrified of saying the wrong thing and asked Heath to send him prayers. And in the document is the text message Baldoni sent to Heath. And this is from Baldoni's amended complaint. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively in character wearing her hand-picked wardrobe. These images were widely reported as unflattering and sparked a backlash from Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced serious concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public reception. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her hair and makeup trailer where she was surrounded by her team to ask if they could speak after she was done getting her hair and makeup done. Baldoni wanted to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments, reassert his role as director, and get her on board with him having approval over her character's wardrobe. They later had that conversation in her trailer. While professional, it took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in Lively's CRD complaint, which falsely characterized the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused the crew to wait for hours while Baldoni cried in Lively's dressing room. This conversation did not take hours, and any length of time it took was not because Baldoni cried for hours. In truth, rather than take heed of the concerns of the film's distributor and director, Lively took this time to, among other things, suggest to Baldoni that he was being gaslit by Sony, Heath, and the other producer, and to try to convince him to let her continue to take the helm. Baldoni did briefly become emotional during the conversation, but only in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Lively, praising his work as a director and actor. Another weight-related accusation can be found in Lively's amended complaint. When Miss Lively caught strep throat, Mr. Baldoni offered as a gift to connect her with an expert he had on retainer to help her with probiotics and to combat the sickness. When Miss Lively went to fill out the privacy forms, she saw that the expert was not what Mr. Baldoni had represented her to be, but was instead a weight loss specialist. Miss Lively felt once again that Mr. Baldoni was shaming her for her body and weight. Justin Baldoni addresses this in his timeline of relevant events with contemporaneous text messages. From the filing. May 29, 2023. Lively shares with Baldoni that she has strep throat, and Baldoni offers to send her some amazing gut health protocols that help with antibiotics. Lively responds, please. As a result, Baldoni reaches out to his board-certified integrative holistic health coach and connects them. Lively shares that they connected, saying she's incredible. This document from the filing shows the correspondence between Lively and Baldoni about the health coach, but also correspondence between Baldoni and his wellness coach. Justin reaches out in a text that says, Blake, co-star, is breastfeeding and had to take antibiotics for strep, her second round. Could you recommend a probiotic gut rebuilder I can send her? Establishing some goodwill. I'm telling her about you. I did a little digging and learned that by definition, food and diet are core components of what an integrative holistic health coach addresses. Let's look at Lively's next weight-related claim. This comes from her amended complaint. Mr. Baldoni also routinely degraded Miss Lively by finding back-channel ways of criticizing her body and weight. A few weeks before filming began, and less than 4 months after Miss Lively had given birth to her 4th child, Miss Lively was humiliated to learn that Mr. Baldoni secretly called her fitness trainer without her knowledge or permission and implied that he wanted her to lose weight in 2 weeks. Mr. Baldoni told the trainer that he had asked because he was concerned about having to pick Miss Lively up in a scene for the movie, but there was no such scene. Baldoni's amended complaint includes text messages he had with the trainer in which he receives a training program and what appears to be accommodations for Baldoni's spinal issues. And this is from Baldoni's amended complaint. Baldoni had been introduced to trainer Dawn, who became Baldoni's personal trainer, by Lively. Dawn directed Baldoni's preparation for the film role, including his nutrition and exercise, making special accommodations for Baldoni's back injury. Baldoni even paid to receive Dawn's meal delivery service. And this is from Baldoni's timeline of relevant events. April 22nd, 2023. In preparation for a lift scene in which Baldoni's character, Ryle, would lift Lively's character, Lily, Baldoni reached out to his personal trainer, a close friend of Lively's, to ask what Lively weighed so that he could train his back muscles for the scene. This was important to avoid injury, not only to Baldoni, who has suffered from lifelong back injuries, multiple bulging discs, and chronic pain, but also to Lively, if the lift could not be completed successfully and safely. Script pages of the lift scene are included below. Lively would later claim in her complaint that this scene did not exist. However, As evidenced by the script pages and also a video in which Baldoni is rehearsing the scene with a body double, the scene was very real. Baldoni was summoned by Lively to her penthouse and greeted by Reynolds, who swore at Baldoni and accused him of fat-shaming his wife. "How dare you fucking ask about my wife's weight? What's wrong with you?" The tone from Reynolds and Lively was so aggressive that Baldoni felt he had no choice but to offer repeated and completely unwarranted apologies for what was a good faith and reasonable request to his trainer, not Lively. Reynolds demanded that Baldoni remove the lift scene entirely. In Lively's complaint, she falsely states that the scene wasn't even in the film, suggesting it never existed. Contrary to her attempt to manipulate verifiable facts, the only reason the scene was not in the film is that Lively and Reynolds demanded it be removed, despite the fact that it had already been rehearsed with a stunt double. Accommodating Lively, Baldoni rewrote the scene with her despite the fact that, for creative reasons, he felt the scene was necessary. Baldoni was stunned by Lively's accusation because when Lively had earlier expressed concern about her postpartum figure on February 17th, 2023 and February 24th, 2023, Baldoni genuinely reassured her that she did not need to worry about her body. In fact, it was Lively who insisted that she be fit for the role despite Baldoni's assurances. In this meeting, where Baldoni was aggressively confronted by Reynolds and Lively, Lively told Baldoni that if he could not get on board with how she works, he still had 2 weeks to recast her. As Lively well knew at the time, it would be impossible to recast her without incurring millions in expenses for a film that was already half shot. In addition to financial repercussions, it would cause the studio and Baldoni severe reputational damage, including their relationship with Sony, the film's distributor and financiers. Thus began a pattern of demands by Lively and acquiescence by Baldoni. He opted to get on board for lack of a viable alternative. The timeline of relevant events includes photos of Justin Baldoni taken when he was hospitalized for 3 days in June of 2024 due to a spine infection. In text messages included in the filing, Baldoni informs some friends that once he's released from the hospital, he will need to have 6 weeks of IV antibiotics via a PICC line. I'm kind of speechless over the meeting Baldoni describes taking place at Lively and Reynolds' apartment. Obviously, it's extremely unprofessional to invite a colleague over to your home under false pretenses and then to curse at them. But it's also really odd that Ryan Reynolds was involved at all. To my knowledge, Ryan Reynolds did not have an official or even an unofficial involvement in the It Ends With Us movie. His wife did, Blake Lively. In the media and in her legal arguments, Lively presented herself as having insufficient power to push back against conduct she found objectionable because the people engaging in that conduct had greater authority than she did. But the more I learn about this case, the more that the image of a powerless and intimidated Blake Lively begins to strike me as simply implausible.